Have you ever wondered why you've always felt like an outsider? Why no matter how hard you try to blend in, to mold yourself into what others expect, you still end up feeling misplaced? Why parties feel empty? Why conversations feel shallow? Why you walk into a room full of people and still feel alone? It's not that you're broken. It's not that you're antisocial or lost. It's because this world isn't your home. That's why you never fit in. And that's not a curse. It's one of your greatest truths. Before we go any further, I want to ask you something. Stay with me until the end of this video. Let this message sink deep. And when you're done watching, I invite you to write your warmest, most powerful wishes in the comments, followed by the number 77. That number carries a frequency, a divine reminder that wishes do come true when aligned with universal energy. This is your moment to unlock something ancient, to feel something eternal. Let your wish breathe through the energy we share together. Now, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and let's dive deeper. Now let's return to the part you've always struggled to explain to others, the ache of being different. Since you were a child, you may have sensed something was off about how everyone seemed content with things that made you question everything. The games they played, the lies they told, the roles they assumed without question. You tried to follow suit. You tried to mimic what was modeled for you. But your soul rejected it over and over, not because you're flawed, but because you were never meant to belong here in the first place. There's a strange beauty in the loneliness of the chosen. You walk a path others cannot see, and for much of your life, you walk it alone. That silence in your heart when you're surrounded by noise, it's not emptiness, it's sacred space. A space where truth echoes, where your real self whispers, "There's more." And you've always known it. Even when people said you were too sensitive, too intense, too deep, you knew. You were never meant to be surface level. This world celebrates the mask. It gives awards for the best performances. It rewards people not for authenticity, but for how well they can conform. And yet you, beautiful, restless soul, were born to disrupt the illusion. You were sent here not to fit in, but to see through, to question what others blindly accept, to feel in a world that's numb, to hear the quiet songs behind the noise. And for that, yes, you will be misunderstood. But that's the cost of truth. That's the price of remembering who you really are. There's a sacred ache in you, isn't there? A longing for something you can't quite name. It feels like homesickness, but not for a place you've been in this lifetime. No, it's older than that, deeper. You're not missing a place. You're missing a vibration, a frequency, a realm of purity and peace where your soul once danced before you came here. And while the world tries to distract you from that ache through money, status, stimulation, you can't be fooled for long. The ache always returns, reminding you that you come from somewhere else, somewhere the light never dims, somewhere you never had to hide. And that's the paradox of the chosen ones. You were sent into a world where you'd feel like an alien, where you'd be rejected for your light, where you'd be mocked for your vision, where you'd be tempted to dim your glow just to be normal. But you were never born for normal. You were born for awakening, for the quiet revolution that starts inside and echoes outward. Your very presence is a signal that truth is alive and breathing, even in a world asleep at the wheel. But let's be honest, it hasn't been easy. The loneliness hurts, the betrayal stings, the spiritual isolation can feel unbearable. You've tried to explain yourself, but your words get lost in translation. You've shared your heart, only to have it stepped on. And maybe sometimes you've questioned your own sanity. Maybe you've wondered, what's wrong with me? But let me tell you the truth you've always known, but maybe forgot. There is nothing wrong with you. There never was. You didn't come here to be comfortable. You came here to remember and to remind others, through your life, your energy, your resistance to illusion, that something greater is calling. And when the noise of this world fades, when the lights go out and you're alone with your soul, you feel it. The pull, the promise, the quiet voice that says, hold on, you're almost home. It's no coincidence you're watching this now. It's no accident you were drawn to this message. Your soul has been asking for confirmation, for a sign that it's okay to be different, that it's okay not to fit in, that maybe, just maybe, you were never meant to. And this is that sign. This is your soul's reminder that it is not broken, it is chosen. Chosen to carry light in a place addicted to darkness. Chosen to walk barefoot through fire, just to leave sparks for others to follow. Chosen to be the living proof that this world isn't the final destination. And still, with all of this awareness, the journey remains hard. You may not have the support you need. You may still feel like you're walking through fog, through shadow, through loss. But hear me, every tear you've cried has watered something sacred. Every time you broke, something holy leaked out. You've been cracked open, yes, but the light shines through the cracks. You've been isolated, yes, but the universe isolates only the rarest souls before elevation. Not to punish, but to prepare. Because to walk the path of truth, you must first walk alone. To awaken, you must first feel lost. To shine, you must first be covered in darkness. To lead, you must first learn how to survive when no one is clapping, when no one is watching, when no one understands. This world may never celebrate you, but that doesn't mean you're unworthy of celebration. This world may never understand you, but that doesn't mean you're incomprehensible. What you carry inside is ancient and eternal and beyond translation. That's why you feel too much. That's why small talk drains you. That's why fake people make you sick. That's why the systems of this world feel like cages to you, because they are. And your soul remembers freedom. You didn't come here to win their games. You came here to remind them there's another way. You came here to challenge the lies. You came here to live from your heart, even if it breaks 100 times. Because even in your brokenness, you're real. And real is what this world is dying for. So, if you've never fit in, it's because your soul was too wild to be caged, too ancient to be programmed, too luminous to be ignored. You are not here by accident. You are not broken. You are not lost. You are light. You are chosen. You are home to the energy this world has forgotten. You are here to awaken what others have buried. You are the storm they feared and the calm they prayed for. So breathe deep. The pain you carry is sacred. The ache in your chest is holy. The disconnection you feel is proof that your real home is still calling. And one day, when your mission here is done, when your last light has been shared, when your final whisper has reached the heart it was meant for, you'll return, not to this place, but to the origin, the eternal, the realm of pure knowing, where every why will be answered. And until then, keep walking, keep shining, keep loving, even if they don't love you back. Because every time you choose authenticity over approval, your real home smiles. And that, dear soul, is everything. You've probably noticed something peculiar about yourself over the years. No matter how hard you try, you just don't blend in. Not at school, not in social groups, not even in your own family sometimes. It's as if there's an invisible line between you and the rest of the world, a wall made not of bricks, but of frequency. And you've spent your whole life trying to decode why you feel like you're from a different planet, a different time, maybe even a different realm. This isn't arrogance. This isn't rebellion. It's recognition. A quiet knowing that something about this place is foreign to your soul. And while others are building lives based on expectations, you're over here questioning the whole system. They say, get a job, get married, settle down, and part of you wants to obey, just to ease the isolation. But another part, your truest part, rises up in resistance. Not because you're against love or stability, but because you know deep down that none of it will ever satisfy you if it isn't aligned with your spirit. And you've tried, haven't you? You've tried to force yourself to enjoy what others seem to love. You've tried to silence your inner voice for the sake of acceptance. But the cost was always too high. Because pretending to be someone else just to fit in is a slow kind of death. And you were never born to die slowly. You were born to live fiercely, even if that means living alone for a time, even if that means being misunderstood. Because your soul didn't sign up for comfort. It signed up for mission, for purpose, for remembering and reminding others of what they've forgotten. That there's something beyond these roles, these games, these illusions. Something eternal, something sacred, something true. And that's why your path has been so hard. Not because you're unlucky, not because you're cursed, but because you are rare. The old soul in the new age, the mystic in the modern world, the seer in a time of blindness. You were never meant to follow the crowd. You were meant to walk ahead of it. Even if no one follows you at first, even if they laugh, mock, or ignore you. Because you carry a different map, a different compass. You navigate by stars they can't see. You hear melodies they've forgotten. You feel deeply in a world that numbs everything. But feeling, dear soul, is your superpower. Yes, it makes life painful. Yes, it makes betrayal cut deeper. But it also allows you to experience beauty on a level others miss completely. When you see a sunset, you don't just see light, you feel eternity breaking through the sky. When you hear music, you don't just hear notes, you feel a portal opening to another realm. When you love with your whole being. And when you lose, you grieve with a depth that could drown oceans. That's not weakness, that's capacity, that's divine design. You are a carrier of something this world has tried to forget. Sensitivity. And in a world that glorifies numbness, your ability to feel is rebellion. Your tears are not signs of weakness. They are sacred rivers, washing away what is false, revealing what is real. That ache in your chest, that's your soul refusing to give in to the artificiality around you. That discomfort you feel in crowds, that's your frequency rising above the noise. That restlessness in your heart, that's the divine whisper reminding you, this is not home. And yes, there will be times you wish it were easier, times you long for a simpler life, for the comfort of belonging, times you'd give anything just to feel normal. But normal was never your destiny. Your soul is wired for something far more powerful than normal. It's wired for truth, for transformation, for awakening. And awakening isn't glamorous. It's brutal. It's lonely. It's the dismantling of everything false within and around you. It's losing everything that doesn't resonate with your higher self. It's being stripped down until only what's real remains. And that process, it hurts. It shakes you. It breaks you. But it also frees you. Because what remains after the breaking is unshakable. What survives the fire is pure. That's why so much has been taken from you. Not to punish you, but to purify you. Every friendship that fell away, every relationship that ended, every identity that collapsed was making room for your truth, room for your light, room for your true self to emerge without apology or disguise. And yes, it's painful, but isn't it also sacred? You've been in the cocoon, wondering why everything hurts so much, wondering why your wings haven't come yet. But they will. They always do. The longer the cocoon, the stronger the flight. The deeper the ache, the wider the expansion. You are not forgotten. You are not being punished. You are being prepared. Because your mission is not small. Your light is not subtle. You were born to shake the system, to break the patterns, to blaze a path through the darkness for others to follow. And that path, it requires solitude. It requires silence. It requires trust. So much trust. Trust in the unseen. Trust in the process. Trust in your soul's knowing, even when everything around you says you're crazy. But you're not crazy. You're remembering. And remembering in a world built on forgetting will always look insane until the world wakes up. And it will, because of people like you. People who refuse to conform, who refuse to shut down, who refuse to trade truth for comfort. So keep going, even if you're tired, even if you're scared, even if the world tells you you're too much or not enough. Keep going, because the path you walk isn't just for you, it's for the ones watching silently, wondering if it's okay to be different. When you shine, they feel permission to shine. When you speak truth, they feel safe to listen to their own. When you say, "I don't belong here," others finally feel less alone. And that, dear soul, is your gift. You were never meant to fit in. You were meant to stand out. You were never meant to follow. You were meant to lead. You were never meant to sleepwalk through life. You were meant to awaken and awaken others. So, take a deep breath. Let the ache remind you of your origin. Let the loneliness remind you of your purpose. Let the discomfort remind you that your real home is not made of walls or streets, but of stars, vibration, and eternal light. And until you return there, keep being the bridge, the voice, the light in the fog. They may not understand you now, but one day they'll thank you. One day they'll say, "Because of you, I remembered." One day they'll realize that the one who never fit in was the one who carried the way out all along. There's a quiet power in those who never fit in. The world may call them misfits, loners, or outcasts, but the truth is far more sacred. They are the ones who were never meant to be molded by society. They are the ones who came to mold something new, something better, something real. Because this world, in all its chaos and confusion, has forgotten what matters. It's been running in circles, chasing status, possessions, and fleeting pleasures, while slowly starving for depth, connection, and truth. But you feel that hunger, not just in yourself, but in the air around you. You see people smiling, but you can sense the pain behind their eyes. You watch them follow trends, but you feel how empty it all is. You walk into rooms and absorb emotions no one else is acknowledging. It's overwhelming sometimes, isn't it? To carry that awareness, to see what others ignore, to feel what they avoid. That sensitivity has made your life harder. You've probably been told to toughen up, to stop overthinking, to just be like everyone else. But none of those paths ever worked for you, because your soul was never wired for numbness. It was designed to perceive what lies beyond the veil. And when you try to shut that off, it doesn't bring peace. It brings disconnection. It brings soul sickness. Because it is your perception, your intuition, your awareness that holds the key to your purpose. And still, it's not easy. Not when you're surrounded by a world that rewards sameness. Not when the loudest voices are the ones who follow the scripts written by others. You look around and wonder why things feel so off, why the dreams others chase feel more like distractions to you, why you feel alone in a room full of people. But that's not because you're broken. It's because your compass doesn't point to the things of this world. It points to the eternal. And when your soul is connected to something eternal, temporal things just don't satisfy you. You're not meant to be filled by applause or approval. You're not meant to be fed by material success. Yes, those things may come. Yes, they can have their place, but they are never the center for you, because your essence isn't sourced from this dimension. You carry the imprint of a world beyond this one, a place where love isn't conditional, where truth isn't punished, where the soul can breathe fully without fear. And while you are here in this world, your heart still beats in rhythm with that other realm. That's why you've never felt entirely comfortable here. That's why the system never made sense. That's why, even at your highest earthly moments, there was always a silent whisper. There's more. And there is. There's more than the routines, more than the roles you're expected to play, more than the labels that try to define you. You are not a title, a job, a category, or a personality type. You are a soul on a sacred journey, navigating through a place that was never meant to be your final destination. And deep down, you've always known that. That knowing, it's been with you since childhood. Maybe you didn't have the words for it back then, but you felt it, in moments of solitude, in your dreams, in that strange feeling of homesickness that came not from missing a place, but from missing something you couldn't name. And no matter how far you've come in this world, that longing never left you, because it was never meant to. It was meant to keep you awake. That ache in your spirit is the compass that leads you back to truth. That constant sense of being out of place is not a curse, it's a calling to remember what others forget, to carry light where there is darkness, to bring warmth to cold spaces, to hold open doors others cannot even see. You are here, in this world, but not of it. That means you're meant to live differently, to speak differently, to love differently, not with arrogance, but with reverence. Reverence for your path, reverence for your difference, reverence for the sacred responsibility of being someone who doesn't fit in. Because not fitting in gives you the freedom to see clearly, to stand firmly, to live authentically. And while others may chase validation, your soul yearns for alignment. Alignment with what is true, what is eternal, what is real. That's why dishonesty feels like poison in your mouth. That's why manipulation makes your skin crawl. That's why superficiality leaves you empty. Your system rejects what is false, because it was built to serve what is true. So when you feel exhausted from pretending, stop. When you feel drained by the game, step out. When you feel like giving up, remember why you began. You didn't come here to win a game designed to distract. You came to awaken, to remember, and to help others do the same. And awakening is messy. It's not a straight path. It's full of doubts, detours, dark nights of the soul. But even in your lowest moments, even when you question everything, you are not lost. You are recalibrating. You are shedding layers that were never truly you. You are stripping away the conditioning of a world that tried to mold you into something you're not. That takes courage. That takes heart. That takes divine stubbornness. The kind that refuses to give up on your soul even when the whole world tells you to. And that refusal, that quiet persistence, that is power. That is truth. That is proof that you are still connected to something higher, something sacred, something no system can define, no person can take, no failure can erase. You carry the fire of another world. You walk with the memory of something ancient in your bones. You speak with the echo of light in your voice. And even if no one else sees it, even if no one affirms it, you know it. You feel it. And when you let that knowing guide you, even when the road gets lonely, you find something far better than comfort. You find peace. The kind of peace that comes from living in harmony with your soul, not your surroundings. The kind of peace that no applause can give and no rejection can take away. The kind of peace that only comes when you accept that you were never meant to fit in, because you were born to stand in the space between worlds, as a messenger, a bridge, a light. And that is no small task. That is a sacred role. You may not realize it, but every time you chose truth over comfort, light over illusion, love over fear, you were remembering. You were remembering who you are and where you come from. Every act of integrity in a world that rewards deception. Every quiet stand you took when your voice trembled. Every time you listened to the whisper within when the crowd screamed otherwise. Those moments were sacred. They were proof that your soul has never truly belonged to this world. But still, there's a kind of grief that comes with being different. It's the grief of invisibility. When the world doesn't see you for who you are. It's the grief of isolation, when your truth echoes into silence. It's the grief of knowing too much, of feeling too much, of caring too deeply in a world that numbs itself to survive. And you've carried that grief like armor, haven't you? Not because you wanted to, but because you had to. Because sensitivity in a harsh world feels like a liability. Because compassion in a careless system gets mistaken for weakness. So you built walls, you wore masks, you learned how to survive in a place that felt foreign to your soul. But survival was never the end goal. You were never meant to merely exist. You were meant to awaken. And slowly, layer by layer, you are doing exactly that. You are learning to let go of the false safety of fitting in. You are learning that rejection is not always punishment. Sometimes it's protection. You are learning that not all silence is loneliness. Some silence is sacred. You are learning that the path of the outsider is not a detour. It's the direct route to truth. And as painful as it has been, your path has given you something that conformity never could. Clarity. Clarity about what matters. Clarity about who you are. Clarity about what your soul is here to remember and restore. Because make no mistake, you are here for a reason. You were placed in this world with a specific frequency. A frequency that doesn't resonate with chaos. A frequency that disrupts illusions. A frequency that calls others back to their own truth, even if they don't realize it. You've probably noticed this, haven't you? How people feel things around you they can't explain. How your presence seems to awaken something in others, even when you say nothing. That's not accidental. That's energetic. That's spiritual. You are a mirror for those who've forgotten their reflection. A reminder for those who've lost their way. Not because you have all the answers, but because your very being is aligned with something deeper. And yes, that can be exhausting. Yes, it can feel thankless. Yes, it can feel like you're carrying a weight no one else can see. But please, don't underestimate what you're doing. Every time you choose authenticity over approval, you shift the energy of this world. Every time you hold space for truth, you make it safer for others to do the same. Every time you live in alignment with your soul, you create ripples that move far beyond what you can measure. This world doesn't need more copies. It needs originals. It needs hearts that still beat with compassion. It needs eyes that still see beauty through the cracks. It needs voices that still speak even when it's dangerous to do so. And that's you. You are here to shake the system, not with force, but with frequency, to challenge the lie that fitting in equals worth, to stand as living proof that it's possible to be fully yourself in a world that asks you to be everything else. And that's a revolution all by itself. But it doesn't mean you won't get tired. It doesn't mean you won't question your purpose. It doesn't mean you won't crave a home that actually feels like home. Because the truth is, this world is not your home. And that longing, that ache, that constant sense of being other, it's not a flaw. It's not a failure. It's a compass. A compass pointing you back to the remembrance that home isn't a location. It's a frequency. It's that place within where you feel fully known, fully seen, fully safe, to be exactly as you are. And maybe you've only felt glimpses of that. Maybe in nature, in a piece of music, in the embrace of someone who didn't ask you to shrink, in a moment of stillness where the noise fell away and your soul whispered, "This is it." Those moments matter. They're fragments of home, and they are proof that your soul remembers where it came from. But you're not here just to remember. You're here to embody, to walk through this world, carrying that frequency of home within you, to become a sanctuary in a world of storm, to become an anchor for others who are lost in the current. And yes, that's a sacred burden, but it's also a sacred gift, because those who carry the light of another world are the very ones who help this one heal. You were not sent here to escape the world. You were sent to illuminate it, not by pretending you have it all figured out, not by preaching or performing, but by simply being who you are, even when that feels like the hardest thing in the world, because who you are is exactly what this world needs. And when the days get heavy and the nights grow long and the ache of not belonging starts to consume you, come back to this truth. You were never meant to fit in. You were meant to remember. You were meant to restore. You were meant to awaken something eternal in a place built on temporary things. That's why you never quite felt at home here, because the part of you that's most real doesn't belong to this world. It belongs to something far greater, something that cannot be named, but can be felt, something that lives not in systems, but in spirit, not in structures, but in stillness, not in appearances, but in truth. And that's something, it's always been calling you home, not through escape, but through embodiment. And every step you take toward that truth, every layer you shed, every moment you choose soul over survival, you get closer, not to fitting in, but to being fully, divinely, unapologetically you. And that, beloved one, is more than enough. There's a certain silence that lives in the heart of those who never belonged. Not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of knowing. A knowing that doesn't always have words, but carries weight. You feel it in quiet rooms, where everyone is talking, but no one is really saying anything. You feel it in crowded places, where laughter rings loud, but your spirit is alone. You feel it in conversations where you shrink yourself to be understood, and still end up feeling like a stranger. It's not because something is wrong with you, it's because the world taught you to define belonging by external validation. And you were never meant to be validated by a broken system. You were designed for something purer, realer, higher. But before you could rise into that truth, you had to walk through the fire of forgetting. You had to be the child who never quite fit in. The teenager who looked around and wondered, why does none of this feel real? The adult who played the game for a while, tried to follow the rules, check the boxes, wear the masks, only to realize the price of that performance was your soul. And so, piece by piece, you stopped playing. You chose the harder path, the lonelier one, the one that didn't promise comfort, but whispered truth. And every step down that path pulled you further from the illusions and closer to yourself. But the more you remembered who you were, the more the world seemed to resist you. People called you too intense, too sensitive, too deep, too much. They tried to mold you back into a shape that made them comfortable. But your soul refused to shrink again. Because once you start waking up, you can't go back to sleep. Once you taste truth, falsehood becomes unbearable. And even though this awakening can be isolating, you're not alone. There are others, scattered across this earth like living stars, who carry the same ache, the same knowing. You may not see them every day, but they exist. They too walk quietly through this noisy world, holding the vibration of something eternal. They too were marked as different, not by chance, but by divine design. You are one of them. You were born with a map in your spirit, a sacred direction encoded in your very being. And that map never pointed to this world as your final destination. It was always guiding you home, not a physical place, but a soul state, a frequency where truth lives, where love isn't earned but remembered, where you don't have to perform to be accepted, where you don't have to harden to feel safe, where you can simply be, and that's enough. You are not lost. You are not broken. You are not too much. You are a pioneer of light, sent to walk a road few understand. That's why your journey looks different. That's why your timing never matched theirs. That's why you always sensed there was more, even when you couldn't name what more meant. You felt it in your bones, in your breath, in the quiet. And now, it's beginning to make sense. Because you were never meant to find peace in a place built on noise. You were never meant to find belonging in systems that reward inauthenticity. You were never meant to find yourself in a world that profits from your forgetting. You were meant to transcend it, not by running away, but by remembering, by choosing your essence again and again, by living in alignment, even when it's hard, by walking through this world with your heart open and your spirit strong, even when that leaves you vulnerable. Because here's the truth. You are not here to win the game. You are here to change the energy of the room. You are not here to climb ladders built on ego. You are here to plant seeds of truth with your presence. You are not here to wear the masks. You are here to remind others that they never needed them. That's your role. That's your power. That's your rebellion. And it's quiet. It's sacred. It's slow. It doesn't always come with applause, but it's real. And real will always outlast the performance. So when you feel out of place, when the world feels too loud, when you wonder if you're doing it wrong because you don't fit into the molds they tried to pour you into, remember, you're not here to fit. You're here to awaken. You're not here to copy. You're here to embody. You're not here to follow. You're here to lead, not with force, but with frequency. And the frequency you carry is ancient. It cannot be faked. It cannot be taught. It can only be remembered. And you're doing that with every breath, with every choice, with every moment you choose your soul over survival. You are walking yourself home. And in doing so, you are lighting the way for others who are still asleep in their costumes. You may never be understood by the masses. You may never win their approval. But you were never meant to. You were meant to carry something eternal in a temporary world. And that is the highest calling of all. There's a sacred kind of courage that comes with remembering who you are in a world that constantly asks you to forget. Not the loud kind, not the kind that's celebrated or applauded, but the quiet, steady kind, the kind that whispers, "I will not abandon myself, no matter how lonely this road feels." You've walked that road, and perhaps you still are, feet bruised, heart tender, soul awake. You've faced the ache of invisibility. You've tasted the loneliness of being misunderstood. You've stood in rooms full of people and still felt the emptiness that comes from not being truly seen. And yet, you stayed true to your soul. You didn't fit into the narratives, the roles, the boxes that others tried to place you in. Because deep down, you always knew they weren't made for you. You were made for something else, something higher, something older, something more whole. You were made to carry the echo of a place this world doesn't recognize, but your soul never forgot. And that is the real reason you never fit in, because you were never meant to. You weren't sent here to blend in with the crowd. You were sent to be the frequency that calls the crowd back to themselves.